Hey there, it's Nina with Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me today. This is the project we're going to be making. I just really think it turned out so cute, and I used the Painted Autumn Designer Series paper to make this box because I love that paper. Now what is inside of my box is one of these little purse-sized packages of Kleenex, and I designed the box to fit the Kleenex, and because they have kind of autumn colors, that inspired me to use the Painted Autumn Designer Series paper. And I wanted to put a little pop of color in there, so I went with the fresh fig for the ribbon as well as the stamped sentiment here. So let me set this aside and we'll get started. I have a kit. Make sure you go over to my blog at wallastamping.com, find the post for this project, make a comment below, and your name will be entered to win this kit. You don't need very much to make this project. So I went with another piece of the Painted Autumn Designer Series paper, just a different pattern. This is cut to 7 inches by 7 inches. Then for the sentiment, I just have a piece of Very Vanilla. This is cut to 2.5 by 3. I'm going to be using some of my rhinestones, and I'll be using my Lots of Labels framelits, as well as some old olive ink and my fresh fig ink and a stamping sponge. The block that I'm using today is a block C that I have my sentiment on. The stamp set that I'm using is Just Add Text, and I've chose to use the Life is Better with Friends stamp. Then I'll also be using the finely woven ribbon and fresh fig on this project. The adhesive I'm going to be using is Fast Fuse, and I'll be using some dimensionals, and I'll also be using my Stampin' trimmer as well as my envelope punch board. So let's get going. Now the first thing that you'll want to do is grab your envelope punch board. And this is a pretty busy pattern, so how well you're going to be able to see, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do all of my scoring on this side, and perhaps you could be able to see it better there. So first of all, we're going to line the left side of our paper up over here with 4 7/8 inch. We're going to punch and then find our score line and score. Then we're going to move over to 3.5 inches. Punch again and score again. Then I'm going to turn my paper all the way around to the opposite side and do the same thing again. So that's 4 7/8, punch and score, 3.5, punch and score. Then turn your paper a quarter turn, and what you'll do this time is line this little tail right here with your score line. And then I usually look down here also. Let me make sure you can see. I look down here also to make sure that this score line is going to be falling in place with the edge of the paper. So I'm going to punch and score there, then slide it over to the next score line. I'm hoping that y'all can see these score lines. Then punch and score again, and then you'll just flip your paper around to the other side and line those score lines up again and just do the same thing. Here's that other score line. There we go. Now I'm going to grab my Stampin' trimmer, get those out of the way. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and fold this down out of my way. Now this is my 2 score lines here. I'm going to line this score line, not the second one, but the first one, up with the 1 inch mark on my Stampin' trimmer. Move my cutting blade out of the way and then just score this. Okay, then I'm going to take this same score line and move it over to the 2 inch mark, and then just trim that little piece off right there. So when you get that done, this is what you'll be left with. And I almost forgot, you can do this, you don't have to, but on this end of your punch board there's a corner rounder. So the small triangles you're going to want to put in there and round those corners. The other 2 you don't need to worry about, because as you see I cut that off there, and we're going to put a decorative edge on this side. To do that I'm going to need my Big Shot, so let me grab that and bring it over. And this is where my Lots of Labels framelits come into play. Alright, so I'm going to lay my paper down so that the triangle that I have not done anything to is right there. I'm going to lay my framelit on top of it, and what I do is, how well you can tell, I don't know. I will zoom in for you, but I slide my framelit down till I can just see the very edge of the paper right there in these corners. And then I'll take my other cutting pad and I'm going to slide that on top. Now my cutting pads are beveled right here on the edge, so right here to the end where that bevel is, it's not going to cut there. So where that solid part is of my cutting pad, I'm going to line that up right across where I want my cutting to stop. Then I'm going to push this on in to my Big Shot and start running that through. Hopefully, let's try it this way. There we go. Now I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to go until I run off the edge of that cutting pad. Then I'll just slide that back and I have that little decorative edge. So I'll go ahead and get all of my score lines folded and burnished. Alright, now that I've got all that done, I'm going to use my old olive ink and one of my stamping sponges, and I'm going to come in here and fold my paper on all of those score lines, and then I'm just going to add some of this old olive ink on all of those score lines. So what we're going to do now is get our sentiment stamped, and I'm going to be using my fresh fig to do this with. Just stamp that somewhere about in the middle. Then I'm going to grab my Big Shot again, and I'm going to be using my third from the smallest, lots of labels. Alright, just get that run through. So I'm going to use my fresh fig, and just so that I can make this stand out a little bit more off the front of this box, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dab a little bit of that ink off over here on the side, but I'm going to put some of this around my sentiment just to give it some added dimension and kind of make it pop up off the front of my box a little bit. I'm going to grab a couple of my dimensionals now and pop those on the back. Then I'm going to add my rhinestones, which I have colored mine. I'm going to be using this medium size. I'm going to pop one right here on either side, and I just used a purple Sharpie to color those with, and they're turning out to look a little more on the pink side, so you could always just leave those plain and let them be clear if you wanted to. So I'm going to sit this right here for just a minute, grabbing my fresh fig finely woven ribbon and get that tied in a bow around my box. Alright, then we'll just remove the adhesive backing off and stick that over the top of my ribbon. I'll slide that up just a little bit more to make room for my little sentiment to fit there. Alright, and our little box is done. So there's the first one that I made with that first designer series paper, and then this is the one with the opposite or a different pattern. So anyways, I think that this is a really cute way to give somebody just a plain old little box of tissues to keep in their purse, because after all, we are coming up on the season of the year where people are getting colds and the sniffles and that kind of thing. So this would be a cute little something to put on somebody's desk at work, or just hand to a friend, or you know, keep it in your purse. And if you are in the mall or at a store or something and somebody is sneezing or coughing, just grab it out and give it to them. I mean, it's so nice to give somebody a little surprise, and it just brightens their day, even if it's just a little gift wrapped box of Kleenex. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. I'll have links to all of the supplies that you'll need to create this project. in the description box that's below this video, but be sure that you head over to my blog because I'll have the downloadable printable PDF over there. All of the supplies will be there, as well as all of the measurements and all the information you're going to need in order to make this project. So thanks so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. And if you enjoyed this project, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss any of my future paper crafting tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.